Markets Now is brought to you by the 5-year anniversary of Brevant Seeds. Here's to 5 years of not just winning, but collecting one game-changing W after another. See all of our wins at brevant.com/wins.
And welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Brad Kooima of Kooima Varilek, and seeing pressure pretty much in all but the hog market this morning. Brad, let's start off talking about the cattle market. Thanks for being with me. Lower this morning, but we did have a higher weekly close last week. And I guess the big question now is, do you think we have all of the negative news from the plant closure and whatnot baked in here or priced in? And are we able to bottom this market, do you think?
Great question. Wish I had the answer for that for sure. And thanks for having me on, of course, Michelle. Nice way to start the week. Everybody likes, I like me when I'm bullish, right? Everybody likes to hear it when I'm bullish. I'm not quite there. I can't sit here confidently and say the lows are in. We're far enough from them that I'd say, we're starting to gain a little more likelihood. But for me, there's a couple of things on the checklist that I'd like to see happen to make me feel better about it. And it starts with cleaning up some of the big cattle that we've got here in the north. Now, I don't mean to imply that it's a mountain of cattle. It isn't. It's December. We're at the end of this calf run. It's not August, thankfully, because we were very current and pulled forward when we were in August. Now we're the opposite, okay? So I don't feel like there's an ocean of cattle out there, but what we have has performed really well. I listened over and over to guys through the fall say, I'm not going to pay this price for these high-priced feeder cattle. I'm going to feed what I got, and so they did. Right. And now we got a few big cattle around, and there's some places that are discounting them. I know I had a client bid $210 on Friday for some big cattle. I'm going to get hauled a long ways. So I would feel better if that would happen. Okay. The other thing I would like to have happen is I'd like to see the box beef catch. It almost always does this time of year. Doesn't seem to act like it just yet, but it's just a couple days after Thanksgiving. But the boxes had better catch here, which I think they will, because we've had great domestic demand here, and going into the holidays, I would hope that would happen again, because that then would maybe encourage some increased kill. And then you could offset, somebody has to offset what's going to happen there in Nebraska at Lexington. They're still open, but that's the short-lived deal. When they know there's an end gate on that thing, that it's going to be hard to keep them open even until the 20th, like they promised. So I'd like to see that. But then the real gorilla in the room is telling us
the Mexican border, right?
Exactly. I would like to have that in the market.
So we got a little clarity, I guess, from Secretary Rollins last week about that it will be a staggered reopening. Arizona will go first when we start to reopen the border to Mexican feeder cattle. But we kind of knew that already. And so, how long do we have nervousness in this market with this Mexican border situation?
Yeah, I have to count to 10. This whole matter, it seems to me, has been, the rhetoric is starting to wear me down. Okay.
It's wearing the market down, isn't it?
Well, so you get this blip from, and did she say really anything that she hasn't said 5 times before? I guess maybe I didn't think so. I know what the protocol is for that state of Sonora that brings cattle into Arizona. Ivomec 5 days before they move them, inspected twice more at the border, then dip vatted so they swim through something. That was what the protocol has been for years down there. It seems like that seems like a pretty safe way to import cattle. So I don't know. It still seems to me like there seems to be still these headline trading algorithms that they hear a blip and then we rally 9 1/4. That's great. We hear another blip and then the market sells off sharply like that. So let's get it in the market. Of course, it's going to be a gradual opening. I'm anxious to see, are we going to import 1,200 pound cattle? Or are we going to import 600 pound cattle? All of that stuff. So we need to have some answers there. I hope it's sooner rather than later. I don't like that uncertainty hanging over the market, because uncertainty does sideline some of the long speculators for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. One thing that did happen at the end of the week last week was we did see an improvement in the cash trade in the South up to 220. What are you expecting for cash trade this week?
South had a pretty nice performance. Right in my backyard, we basically didn't have a market. We almost traded hardly any cattle because we just weren't getting any bids. We're going to be behind the South, unfortunately, which is a function of supply. The regional imbalance created by the border closing has got the South with much tighter supply than we do here, and then being a little bit uncurrent like we are, we don't have a great deal of leverage. So I don't know. I guess I'd like to think the South would be steady better, maybe a little better than the 220. Where does that leave us? $5 behind them, I suppose. 215, 16, 17, hopefully. And the South will be the leader here, I guess, on that deal. So, and I would encourage us let's get current. If you're bullish, Feb cattle are 215. To me, it makes more sense to swap them. Sell your fats at 215. And anyway, I can't promote futures trades because I'm just supposed to be an analyst here. But I would encourage us to get current so we can get our leverage back, we can get the market. Because what scares me is if you move the calendar another month, Michelle, we all know what those yearlings break even at that guy bought here in July and August. They break even someplace north of 250. So we got to get this cash market to catch, or the next thing is you're going to be fighting the market with these high price break even yearlings and not anywhere near the break even price.
Okay, so we're not sure if we got a bottom put in the market. If we do, technically, what are you watching here to indicate that we have a bottom, and how much recovery could you get from there?
Well, that's the problem. You've got I'm gonna look at the Feb cattle here, and I'm gonna tell you, I think really for somebody to feel good about it, there's two levels. One is 227.40, which would take you through halfway back of this whole big break. But I got a feeling that still feeling the effect of beef's too high. Remember that little scenario in the middle of October? I think we got to get on top of that gap, which is 230 on Feb cattle. That feels like it's a mile away. That's $17 a hundred away, but that's the way the volatility of the market.
And it's a big gap there on the charts for sure. Okay. Hog market, we did have higher weekly closes there. That market's starting to feel like it's trying to bottom. Is it?
I wish we could clean up some weight there. I'm a little more friendly to the hogs, actually, mostly because of price. I mean, June hogs at 96 cents. I mean, even years where things are horrible, you usually have summer hogs at $100. Let's clean up some weights. Usually the colder weather will help with that. And hopefully, I would think that this pork thing is certainly priced into consumption. In other words, that it's cheap enough that demand should improve here as we move into winter here. But so I don't know. I'm more of a buy breaks mode on the hogs, thinking that we can take the summer hogs into that 102 to 104 slot somewhere.
We did see African swine fever break in Spain. There's been some import restrictions by both China and Mexico. Is it having any impact on the market this morning?
They're not a big exporter of pork. It's not bearish. Okay. I mean, it should help us a little, but in terms of really changing the world scale of who buys what from whom, it doesn't seem like China is buying it from anybody. Right. So which would tell me that their hog herd is back healthy. Production is going very well. The price of pork there is what hogs are bringing there is very low, which probably transitions us to, hopefully that means they're going to buy some soybeans and corn from us, right?
Gotcha. All right, grains, corn and soybeans had higher weekly closes last week, but under live volume. So not sure if that's a good technical indicator. Today, are we seeing profit taking, or is this still just some hangover that we didn't have any buys from China this morning on soybeans?
Well, I think about that. You need to feed a bull every day, that old dumb saying, but it's the truth. China is not known as exactly being the most reliable trade partner. They don't always do what they say, although they have started. And I really think it's just a matter of course that where else are they going to get the feed for this hog crop that they've got going here. So I think today is a bit of a correction after what's been a pretty good rally. The beans, for instance, off that sharp break, we came all the way back to about 50% retracement. It wouldn't surprise me if we'd pause maybe just a second here. But I'm still in the mood of that the follows are definitely in place there, and that we can grind a little higher, at least going into this wintertime season. I think we're the only place really that is a good, reliable source for corn and soybeans for that matter. So let's hope China keeps buying it. I think they will, and that ought to help us.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. We're right up into those resistance areas and kind of got those rejected. All right. Thanks so much. That is Brad Kooima of Kooima Varilek in Markets Now.
You were right.
You were right.
You were right.
Well, you were right.
When you choose your seed brand, there's winning, and then there's...
You were right. Should have gone with Brevant seeds.
When you choose Brevant seeds, you don't just win. You get to be right. Don't just win. Win. Talk with your retailer or visit Brevant.com/win to get started.